Driver, start your
Hey, race fans, welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network. Welcome to the Drafting the Circuits program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we cover this past week in racing and catch you up on all the racing news off the track, and there's a lot of it this week. Joining me in the studio, I've got Luis Torres and Richard Youden. Guys, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty good. Happy that Seattle's owning New York.
There you go. Yeah. So save that for our baseball podcast. So we had
invited onto that podcast yet.
Not yet, because I don't have enough to say.
It's a work in progress. Mariners got to make the playoffs first, but that's another story for another time.
There we go. All right, that's another story for another time, indeed. Yeah. So, but a story for this time is certainly the return of the Music City Grand Prix, second year. Got off to a pretty good start, and it was just downhill from there. Again, the television now, one of my least favorite sayings that television announcers say is yellows breed yellows, but golly, they sure did. So we had at the end of the day, we had a very unlikely winner, Scott Dixon, who looked to be kind of out of contention early on, but the way things out, Scott Dixon on a 6 pit stop strategy ended up winning the race because that one of those cautions fell his way. 53 wins for Mr. Scott Dixon, passes Mario Andretti on the all-time list. His next guy on the all-time list is AJ Foyt, but more importantly, it vaults Dixon the second in the championship, a mere 6 points behind Will Power, as some of the other championship contenders had a pretty rough day out there. Pato had a rough day. Ericsson had a rough day. Newgarden was up and down all day, not making any friends with Grosjean, not making friends after the race on Twitter. But, again, a great event, but the execution I still feel like we need a few changes to that track. It's kind of funny because we've raced at Long Beach for years that's just as tight, but it doesn't seem to have the problematic trying to get going again that we've seen in Nashville 2 years now. So, Richard, did you get a chance to watch?
I did, yeah. I saw the first 3 quarters of the race, and then when they had that, I'd recorded it, and then when that whole change of channels, it sort of cut me off for the last 20 laps of the race. So I'd caught the highlights of that as well. But yeah, it's an entertaining track, isn't it? I think it's an interesting concept. I think the crowds look pretty good. And they actually had some grandstands to be in this year, which I think is more than they had last year in there. But no, it was a good event, and yeah, there's still this little bit of what's the word? Issues with the racing there, and I think it's more the patience of the drivers rather than the track. In all fairness, but yeah, I thought the racing that I saw was good. There was a number of times when people tripped over each other, which was unfortunate or avoidable at times. But it teaches discipline, and who's probably the most disciplined driver on the grid?
Scott Dixon. Yeah,
exactly. There you go.
Scott Dixon, but despite getting into trouble and having a flat tire and making 3 extra pit stops, at the end of the day, he comes out victorious.
Ericsson had 5 pit stops last year and won. And how many did Dixon have this year?
6. Yeah.
Broke a front wing, flew up in the air. Then strategy fell on his lap, and outside of Herta was the only guy, not the only other guy that was in control of the race. Of course, Grosjean led a few laps besides Herta, and Ericsson.
McLaughlin
and Palou
No, I'm talking about last year when you mentioned
last year,
that's what Ericsson.
Yeah,
no,
but,
for sure.
but no, this year, Palou led a bunch of laps, and McLaughlin was
McLaughlin for that.
He was on point most of the day. Yeah, absolutely. He probably could have won the thing if there were another 3-4 laps of another 3-4 laps in the race.
Here's the thing about McLaughlin. I feel like had it not been for that skid he had during the month of May and June, McLaughlin might as well be in the championship mix. I think with 3 races to go, he's a bit behind. He's going to take a lot of help and probably have to win out to get him back in the mix. But
if we're going to go on that tact, I did see a comment on one of the social media channels. Frank, you probably saw it as well. If it wasn't for that 1 mile an hour speeding penalty that Scott Dixon got on his last stop at Indy in May, he would be miles ahead of the championship now and on his way to a 27th title or whatever it's going to be.
The seventh,
yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that mistake.
That is also
Indy,
another thing.
Cost him the double points for the win.
Yeah.
So then that's largely the reason why Ericsson has been in control of his championship for a number of weeks. Getting that big payout at Indy. But, right now, Willpower is still controlling this thing. But, with Dixon only 6 points behind, and
I wouldn't say controlling, but
he's in a points lead, right?
Yeah, now going into Gateway, yeah.
Going into Gateway, yeah. But, with Dixon right there, I'm sure that Will is not comfortable at all. Dixon certainly knows how to win a championship or 2 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And Will knows how to lose a championship,
exactly.
as he's done a number of times in the past. But I think it's gonna come down to these two guys, and maybe Newgarden playing spoiler there. Newgarden more often than not has been kind of snake bit with a little bad luck here and there, and some of it his own making, and other of it mechanical. Newgarden was very aggressive in the late stages of the race, to the point that he took Grosjean into the wall. And then when asked about it, he pretty much said, hey, welcome to IndyCar. It gets tight, and then
right, especially when somebody understays into you, it gets really tight.
Yeah. So, and then of course, Grosjean, who hadn't made a lot of friends the last several races, tried to express his displeasure on his social media account. And then, I think it was Ericsson that said, hey, buddy, comes around, goes around. So there you go. Yeah, you got some bruised egos, some bruised egos, some battered cars, a whole flatbed truck full of nose cones and front wings.
And,
at the end of the day, yep.
Fractured but whole, because that whole IndyCar paddock has been kind of like scratching a claw a lot as of late, whether it's the contract disputes, you mentioned bruised egos, banter gone wrong on Twitter. It's one of those things that, yeah, we need some of that, but where does it get to the point that it's kind of getting silly, where it's like you be responsible and hold yourself accountable for your own actions, because this has been the theme of Andretti all year long, that they're mad at somebody or mad at one another, and there's just nothing goes to the right. Like I was going to mention earlier on McLaughlin, some people are saying he's the most improved driver, and I can see it, but let's not forget McLaughlin started off pretty good, but this was the second half where he kind of skidded a little bit. So I can see some of that, but one that we thought we was going to be most improved or be in the mix is Grosjean, and he's just not had that, and instead it's these controversies that has kind of been storming into Grosjean once again, like his early days in Formula One.
Yeah.
But has anybody, Andretti, been, really? I mean, I know Herta and Rossi have got a win, but I mean, it's not like they've been,
no, they haven't been.
Herta seems to be spending most of the season trying to lose races.
Yeah.
And doing a pretty damn good job at most of them. But, where is Grosjean? I mean, he's what, mid-pack 15th or something in the table. He's not that far behind Herta in reality. And he's not that far behind Rossi. I wouldn't say he's had a terrible year. Probably not as what he expected. But again, it boils down to that big you know, and again, we've spoken about this at length on this show. You know, you take, Grosjean. If you give Grosjean a better, result at Indy, because he crashed out quite early, didn't he? If you give him a better result at Indy, he's probably the leading Andretti driver right now. So it's,
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
Rossi got a top 5, didn't he? And
that's kind of where his
Grosjean
season started getting going
yeah,
for Rossi.
yeah. So it's a sort of, I don't think he's been as bad as people have made him out to be when you look at the rest of the team. If you look at a Penske, they've got 3 drivers in the top 6. Ganassi have got 3 drivers in the top 5.
They've been fine, but they should be more up there than they are.
Oh, exactly. But you look
That's
at
where
the
I'm getting
team and
at.
the organization. I don't think you can you can call out any of those drivers. We know for a fact that Colton Herta is way higher than the 10th fastest driver on the IndyCar
no question.
pack. So, it's just a pure, simple logistics of the fact that the Andretti team has been underperforming, and that has had a knock-on effect on Grosjean and Herta and Rossi. So it's certainly been a disappointing year for him, but I think it has been for the whole organization.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk about somebody who's been absolutely impressive last couple of weeks, and that would be Christian Lundgaard.
Yeah.
And this guy, he had a great race. He had a great qualifying. I actually picked him for the win because, these street courses tend to produce surprise winners. And he was right there in the mix up until the very last restart with 2 laps to go, where I'm not quite sure what happened to him there, but he had used up all his push to pass. We know that. And he dropped a bunch of spots on that last restart, but he was headed towards the podium, and he drove pretty smart all day. And this is, coming out of the prior race where he had finished second. So I think this kid is really exciting to watch. And, where the polar opposite is teammate Graham Rahal managed to take out like 5 or 6 cars, and then they repaired his car and put him back on the track, and he managed to take out 2 more cars. So, but
that was
tough day for Graham. But this Lundgaard kid, he's the real deal. He is absolutely just and the Rahal team has, for their part, struggled this year a bit with the expansion of 3 cars. But he's the bright spot on that team right now.
Yeah, and I'm good friends with his race engineer. We've worked together in the past, and I've been speaking to him on and off throughout the year. And he's certainly done and executed in the way that you'd hope that he would do. I mean, he's one of that breed of Rinus VeeKay in the same category there of guys that have come over from Formula 2 that maybe haven't had the opportunity or the financial backing or the results to step up to Formula 1, but goodness me, the limit there is so high that even a mid to high pack Formula 2 driver can do a very, very, very good job in the IndyCar series. And you've seen it with VeeKay, who's a race winner in IndyCar, and Lundgaard, who any other day could have won the last 2 races.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of VeeKay, he did negotiate his contract. He'll be staying on with Ed Carpenter Racing.
McLaren. Oh, sorry. No.
And actually,
yeah. Breaking news.
In a wild twist, they Ed Carpenter Racing confirmed Rinus VeeKay, and Rinus said, "Yes, that's correct." So
yes,
yeah, but
yes, that's correct.
Huge for Ed Carpenter though to keep him around, because I know for a period of time.
Yeah, he's I just don't know what the options out there are for him. Obviously the 10 car Ganassi is a pretty attractive option. Penske's pretty well locked up. They're talking like the 29 car is going to be open at Andretti. And VeeKay's got some, I want to say he drove for Andretti in lights, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, but staying with Ed Carpenter, I think VeeKay helps elevate that team. And that's a team that's always been, punching above their weight.
Yeah.
So, and I think that just continues that. I think Ed is thrilled to keep the young man in the fold there. I think he's good for the team. I think the team is good for him. I think they work together well, and I think they've got a lot of potential. So, in other contract news, of course, the Alex Palou thing just keeps getting crazier because, Chip is now suing Palou. Now Palou is now countersuing Chip for defamation. And yet, Palou gets a podium and Chip congratulates him. So it's kind of weird, while all
it's all in the agents, isn't it?
Yeah, all the agents and lawyers are fighting in the back, but here we are still having some pretty good results on the track. So actually VK drove for Yukos Indy Lights. Louis just informed me. So yeah.
Yeah, because in 19 it was Oliver Askew that won the title for Andretti Autosport that year. When you think, which is kind of interesting looking back, how their careers have been different. But before going to Palou, I want to make a quick chime in on Lundgaard. It's really looking like Lundgaard is probably his Rookie of the Year title to lose now, because he's got, while Malukas has had some nice runs, and then of course Kirkwood and Ilott has shown some brilliance. They just can't put race results together, whereas Lundgaard has as of late.
Yeah, I was going to say Kirkwood has more than 10 DNFs on the year.
This rate is looking like it.
Yeah, he's he's been really good in qualifying, and his race pace looks really good, but they just haven't been able to, you've got to finish the races.
Yep. Yeah, Lundgaard's certainly sort of come on strong throughout the year, hasn't he? He's sort of, certainly sort of, delivered later in the year, and that's where it counts, I guess.
Oh yeah, and just a couple of races left. I think we just got 3 left. We got to a Gateway and
Portland,
and Laguna Seca, and we're done. So, and I would say those 2 road courses out west are going to really favor Lundgaard as well, so he could have a good run in there.
Yeah, it could. It could possibly happen. If anything, I could see Lundgaard being an IndyCar winner next season. I'm not sure about this year, because you're looking at Gateway, which is typically going to be favor Penske and Newgarden, and then you got Portland that's going to probably lean towards the Hondas, and of course Laguna is hurt as playground. So not this year, but certainly next year, I see Lundgaard being an IndyCar winner.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I think this kid has a nice IndyCar career ahead of him. So, all right, so we have the week off in IndyCar before we go to Gateway. So we'll make some Gateway picks next week. Any other stories coming out of Nashville you guys wanted to touch on?
I think that's all I can think of for the top of my head.
Okay. All right. So NASCAR was up in Michigan, and it was a certain Mr. Kevin Harvick who snapped a pretty long winless streak to get him a win this year, and is he the 15th different winner this season?
Yep, the 15th different winner after 23 races.
Yep, and we get one more winner, and that's all the chase spots, and then one more and a race winner.
If we get into
going to get bumped.
If we get 2 new winners in the next 3, then it'll be in precedented territory. It's a shame they don't just allow everybody into the playoffs and then just knock it down to 12. So you may lose 5 guys in the first 3 rounds. At the end of the day, you won a race. You deserve to be in there. So, if you win a race and there's, say, 17 different winners, then you kick out 5 guys in the first. That's a restaurant, isn't it? 5 guys. But yeah, you kick out however many people in the first round.
It's actually not a bad idea. I mean, NASCAR has made a number of tweaks to the playoffs over the years since they first began them in 2004. So yeah, I mean, could be if you're in, you win, because it's supposed to be you're in, you win. But then again, you still got to top 30 in points, right? So keep a guy like who was it? Justin Haley had won a race on a part-time schedule a couple years ago.
Yeah. I think part-time is different. I think you need to
exactly. Yeah.
You have to be a cup regular. You have to be scoring points for Cup Series and try to qualify for every race.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is this puts a guy like Kurt Busch, who's set to miss yet another race with his concussion injury from Pocono. He's got the win, but he's below the cut line, Yeah, but he's got the win. But if we get the another winner, that's going to be Kurt out of the playoffs, because even with the NASCAR waiver, he's not going to have enough points to get ahead of, unless it's somebody crazy that wins, somebody towards the back there who's well down on the points. But
Yeah. And here's the situation about Kurt real quick. And somebody pointed this out, that should we get 16 winners and all that, guys like Brad Keselowski and Corey LaJoie, should they win, it will not be enough period. They're below Kurt, and I think as far as what I've gathered, they may not, depending how they do, they may or may not catch Kurt points wise, because Kurt is, regardless, if we don't get 60 winners and Kurt comes back, he's safe in the top 30. He cannot fall out of the top 30. But if we have reached a quota, and if it's not like Keselowski or Corey LaJoie, if your names are Keselowski and LaJoie, you may not even make the playoffs because you're below Kurt Busch and not able to catch him at all, because it's getting so weird and complicated that with Harvick's win, that brings up the other question. There's a possibility we're going to have two drivers that are inside the top 5 in the regular season standings. Remember, regular season champion gets 15 points, which is all but imminent that Chase Elliott's going to wrap it up sooner than later, because he's just run away with it. But you're going to, in a situation where Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., who are well in the top 10 in the regular standings, they don't have wins. And for Blaney, yes, he's got an all-star win, but they don't reward anything to an all-star other than bragging rights and $1 million and an open window net, mind you.
Not terrible.
Yeah.
He's had worse days.
He said. I talked about
this with
a couple people. No, I know. I talked to a couple people, like, if Blaney does not win and misses the playoffs in spite of being inside the top 5 in the regular season standings, which it only matters for 26 races, it does emphasize the winning aspect, that you have to win, because even if you're consistent enough, there will be circumstances where consistency is not enough. You have to win, period. Yes, we've seen times where the system has been finessed to where they find a little loophole where you can be consistent, win the championship despite doing nothing, like Matt Crafton did in the Truck Series without winning a race. But it makes you wonder, would NASCAR try to dabble, maybe, like, if Blaney does not make it, we're going to see the All-Star race. If you win the All-Star race, you get a playoff points. I mean, top 10 dual finishers get points. But then again, there's the counter argument. Why would it do it for Blaney if they haven't done it for Junior or Chase Elliott if he were in a similar situation? Would it have done the same? Who knows?
Who knows? Like I said, I don't think they're going to change anything this year. Although it's not beyond NASCAR to change the rules midstream. If you recall, the one year they added Gordon to the chase just for fun.
It was just for fun. He was affected by the whole Michael Walter fiasco.
Yeah. So
no,
but the thing is, but you really need to really have a look at the fact that you got a guy right up there in the points, right, who's not going to make the playoffs because he didn't win a race. So you could argue that from either way. Say, okay, well, you know what? The goal in NASCAR is to win races, right? So, if you're not first, you're last. You use the Ricky Bobby strategy, right? So, or you can say, hey, you know what? The guys in the chase should be the most consistent throughout the year, which is how we did it for years. So, there's no easy answer to it. It'd be nice to see Blaney and Truex win the next 2 races and put that argument to rest. But again, that's a tall order to see that particular sequence of events happen just like that.
Yeah, and it's a tall task for Truex. Fortunately for him, he got Richmond, which he's been successful and really good for the last couple of years. He won the last time they ran the second Richmond race when it was part of the playoffs and in the fall. This time it's before the playoffs and at the tail end of summer. So he's got help over there. And of course, Ryan Blaney's the defending August winner at Daytona. Who knows if he'll do well. But then you got guys like Michael McDowell, Bubba Wallace. They have been racking up top 10s as of late. Bubba's been showing superb runs that who's to say he wins at Daytona? Who's to say he might be in the mix at Richmond? And then when it comes to Watkins Glen, you got Michael McDowell. And then when it comes, So if I were it's a tall order for Truex.
Mhm.
You gotta have to hope for guys like the Gibbs cars, Hendrick cars do well and stop and probably benefit Blaney and Truex. But I think in the back of my mind, they don't care about who will help who and how it'll benefit if somebody else does them a favor. They want to win, period. And I think they should go thinking of it that way as winning, because there's no way Ryan is going to catch Chase Elliott to win the regular season title to lock himself in despite not winning. It's too late now. Elliott's gonna have to have a 2004 Jimmy Johnson summer disaster for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, so we're off to Richmond, right? So,
Yep.
which is Richmond's a fun little track. I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
I've been there for the Indy cars back when the IRL race, and I've been there for NASCAR. It's a fun place to watch a race, especially is it a night race this weekend?
No, it's an afternoon race.
Afternoon race, okay. So
That's the compelling thing, because
yeah,
when we think about the second Richmond race, we think about night racing in the fall, beginning of fall, during the fall. This is at the tail end of the summer in the afternoon. So it's gonna feel very weird and very different to all the Richmond races that we've had in the past. And remember last time we had a long green flag run where long runs was key, and that's how Hamlin was able to show up towards the bitter end. So we'll see what kind of Richmond we'll have here, because I'll admit the first one, aside from the long run, old school long run benefiting somebody in the long haul, it was not one of the better races that they have with this current car right now. So we'll be curious to see how this one will do on what will be a very different Richmond that drivers are accustomed to in the past.
all right, and that'll be this coming Sunday. So, Louise, you want to pick a winner for Richmond?
I'm thinking I'm gonna go with William Byron on this one. I think if he really, really wants to be a serious threat, which he has not been since he won Martinsville, he's dipped. He's not been. He's been a complete afterthought. I think if he wants to really make a case and get his redemption from last time, that will be the starting point for him.
All
A
right,
serious threat.
and I'll take Truex. So, and Richard, you'll abstain, I imagine.
Truex wouldn't be a bad pick in my book, I'll tell you.
There you go. There you go. All right. So now, Richard. So Richard, let's talk about Formula One. So we've got some a lot of news happening. Sebastian Vettel announced he's going to retire. And then on the heels of that, folks were thinking like maybe Mick Schumacher would move over to Aston Martin, and Aston Martin was quick to snatch up Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, they picked up Fernando. Yeah, it was
that was very, very unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Alpine found it pretty unexpected because they didn't see that one coming either. But
I heard they heard about it in the press release.
Yeah, I mean, if the rumors of the conversations are to be believed, you can understand it from Fernando's point. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny Fernando's performances this year. I think he's been as good as ever. This year with that car, some of his performances have been fantastic. And if it wasn't for some early season misfortune on a reliability level, he'd be, a good couple of spots higher up in the championship. And I think partly the situation was Alpine wanting to offer him a 1+1 deal, a guarantee for 23 with the option for 24, and he wanted a little bit more. And I think Aston Martin have given him the 2+1 option, so he's guaranteed to be on the grid in 23 and 24 with the possibility of 25. So that'll put him into the sort of 43-year-old age bracket there. But, we all know these guys keep themselves phenomenally fit at this level. So, I don't think there's any concern about Fernando's performance levels there. But then, of course,
I feel like Alonso was driving as good as he ever has. I mean, he's punching above his weight with that car. He has been all years, and
Yeah.
I don't know that the Aston Martin is a better car than the Alpine. Matter of fact, I think it's not, but it'd be interesting to see how his experience can elevate that team.
Yeah. And then, of course, on the heels of that, this sort of connotation was, well, actually, that resolves, a headache that Alpine would have had. How do we get Oscar Piastri into a car? Oh, here you go, Oscar. You could drive for Alpine next year. Now, Fernando's left. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm not driving for you next year. I've got a contract somewhere else. In his, they actually announced him, a la Ganassi and Palou. And if you read the press release that, or the Twitter post that Piastri put out in response, it almost reads verbatim Alex Palou's tweet. So you could almost imagine that it was written by the same legal group, which then brings you on to the concept that Piastri will be driving for McLaren next year, which puts Danny Rick in a potentially difficult situation. He just hasn't clicked with this car and the 2022 regulations in the way that we would maybe expect it for a driver of his experience level. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Danny Rick could end up back at Alpine, but I don't know. Ricciardo's one of those guys that the moves he made after he left Red Bull really haven't fallen into his lap, and you obviously no doubt the guy's a phenomenal talent, and one of the best drivers out there, but it just hasn't really worked for him, and he unfortunately was one of these drivers that came up against the Max effect and made that decision to leave, and would his career have resulted in more wins and more championship potential being in a car like Red Bull and playing not second fiddle necessarily to Max, but being there and thereabouts, than it would be to try and do something with Renault Alpine or whoever it was, and now McLaren. I think he's just wrong place, wrong time. Almost carbon copy to Alonso, just without the championships.
Yeah, exactly. That's I was saying. That kind of mirrors Alonso going to the right team at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So and you got to wonder if this Aston Martin jump is not the best move for him either, because Alpine has been improving on the grid. But
you look at
the
resources,
yeah, exactly. But the Piastri thing. So
yeah,
now we look like Alpine is going to sue Piastri, right? So now, from what I'm reading, right, is that the his contract option expired on August 1st, and then it was August 2nd when they announced they were signing him. So it seemed like he was well within his rights to sign somewhere else, if that's the case.
Yeah.
But now they're wanting to sue him. And Ricardo evidently wants a $21 million payout from McLaren to walk away, based on what the verbiage is in his contract. So, thankfully, though, Formula One has a few things in place with a what do they call, the contract resolution board?
Yeah, the
or whatever. Yeah, they've got whereas IndyCar is just going to go to the courts. Was going to go to local courts. Now they want to go to the federal courts.
So where does the so I know the FIA and Formula One ultimately, yes, they have the contract recognition board or whatever they call it, but then they do above that they have the International Sports Council or whatever it is, which seems to govern every sport globally. You're talking football in the UK and rugby and cricket and all of these sports. Whenever you have any of these contract disputes, they all end up, you go to the local thing, and if it doesn't go somebody's way, then they'll go to the governing body of the sport, and then if it doesn't go their way, they'll go to the International Sports Council or whatever it is. Do IndyCar follow that procedure as well?
Not as far as I know. It's just these things are a little rare in IndyCar. I mean, we've seen it before, but this, the thing with with Ganassi was going to go to a circuit court in Indiana, but now Pallot's people are asking that it be moved to federal court because Palou, not being an American citizen, I think he'll get a fairer shake in a federal court than in a local jurisdiction. So, yeah, but they don't, have the contract negotiation or the the International Federation of Sports that they
Here
go
we
to.
go.
But so
It's the Court of Arbitration for Sport. That's who it is.
yeah. So, but I've not heard of anything in IndyCar going through there. Even when it comes to silly crap like Bobby Unser and Mario Andretti fighting over who won the Indy 500 back in the '80s. That was settled in a Indiana courtroom. So, but yeah, I mean, but it all makes the sport look bad. It makes it looks like nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Nobody's reading the verbiage of these contracts, or makes it look like the contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's just funny that you've got the one Palou situation, and this one really mirrors it. So it's the same thing happening twice. And again, right in the middle of it all is Zach Brown and McLaren.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because it makes me wonder what's going on down there. Who really is the villain? Because you have a one end that Ganassi are trying to make Palou the villain, and then some people are looking at Zach Brown as the villain. It's like at this point, it's getting very sloppy and out of hand. That's effect. Remember, this is not affecting Formula One. This is affecting IndyCar, Formula E, and who knows Extreme E at this point, because we don't even know who is who with McLaren. And look at Felix Rosenqvist right now. He's been getting it together, and to the point that he feels like he's worthy of staying in IndyCar instead of going to Formula E. But that too is getting kind of a bit messy, and it's just
evidently there was some. Felix actually has an out clause with his contract, if I read this correctly, that if he's not offered the IndyCar seat, he's free to speak with other IndyCar teams, or he can accept the Formula E seat. So and I think Zach and Felix both agreed on this when they were questioned on it. So if Felix is not saying, okay, you're welcome, you're going to be in the 7 car next year alongside Pato, Felix can say, we got a Formula E car for you. He can say, well, let me see, let me see if Chip Ganassi's got the 10 car, or let me see if Dale Coyne's got something for me, or let me see about that Andretti car. He's allowed to talk to other IndyCar teams. But I believe he still has the Formula E seat as a fallback. So
yeah, and he has that, which is good for his scenario.
Yeah,
I've heard apparently Gasly does not have an out clause regarding the Alpine ordeal, so he can't get out of AlphaTauri to go to Alpine.
Yes, that's the other player in this whole saga is Pierre Gasly. They're talking about maybe he can go to Alpine, but AlphaTauri is not going to let him go. Now, Richard, what do you know on that one with Gasly?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? You worry that Gasly's going to fall into one of these, like fall through the cracks as one of these undoubtedly phenomenal talents, but where's he going to end up going? There's been a number of top seats become available over the last 2 or 3 years. In the time period where we've known Gasly's worth, he's never landed one of them, and you've got to wonder why. You almost look at something like a Hulkenberg in the same sentence as that, or some of the other guys that have been through the Red Bull program. So you do worry just a hair, because I mean, what's Gasly? This is his 4th season, maybe even 5th season in Formula One. He did have that.
I think he was in 18, I believe, in the same time. Yeah, he was in the same year that Leclerc made his F1 debut.
Yeah. This is his 6th season then, so he did drive some in 17 with Toro Rosso, and then was full time there in 18. Then jumped to Aston Martin, and then sort of obviously, Aston Martin, Red Bull, and then dropped back to Toro Rosso, and then has been at AlphaTauri for the last 3 years. So you do look at it and you think, well, where do we go from here with him? What's his next step? And yeah, I don't know. I worry that sort of spell at Red Bull really hampered him. And I don't doubt for one moment that if he went back to Red Bull, he would pick up and be very, very competitive, now with that bit more experience. But, this is his, you know, arguably his worst season in many ways. If you're looking at his results, he's had a, outside of his first full year in 2018, but, he's only had 3 points finishes this year. Best result of fifth in Azerbaijan. So it's not as if he's dominated, not as if he's had, a string of good results. I mean, in the last 10 races, he's had 1 points finish. So, it's not great. And, you need to, I do worry about him long term a little bit, I think.
Yeah, but what I wonder is how is AlphaTauri so far behind Red Bull? You know what I mean? Because they essentially operate under the same umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, their
why is there a massive gap?
I think their cars are a lot more different than they used to be. I think there's a lot more divergence away from what you see between, say, a Ferrari and a Haas, for example, and the Mercedes and the Aston Martin. Or Aston Martin just appear to have this like photocopier that's on constant research. So it is yeah, they've certainly dropped a little bit, and you do wonder why. I mean, they haven't scored any points in the last 5 races between either of the drivers, and they've had a best result of 12th in that time frame. So it's not amazing, is it? So yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, but again, to your point, Gasly, in my mind anyway, is a phenomenal talent, and he's withering away in that AlphaTauri car. I'd like to see what he could do in Alpine. I'd like to see what he could do in the Red Bull. I'd like to see what he could do in the Mercedes. I'd like to see what he could do in an IndyCar, right?
Yeah.
But I just feel like he's just, kind of doomed to run at the back of the grid. So and then of course the other guy whose name has been in a lot is Mick Schumacher. It looks like he may be out at Haas and may not have a place to land.
Yeah, I mean, Mick, goodness me, it's a difficult one, isn't it? You almost wish he wasn't called Schumacher, don't you, to see maybe how what he was worth. He's certainly improved, I think, at times this year. He's certainly, I think, being with K-Mag there has certainly benefited his driving and his performance. And you've got to give him some credit, but this is a very cutthroat business, and Ferrari have obviously put Sainz onto a longer term contract, so you can see that Leclerc-Sainz partnership being in place for at least the next 2-3 seasons. So where does that leave Mick? A competent driver, goodness me, I don't think anybody can deny that. But is he a world-class driver that a team like Ferrari wants? I don't know. And then it's very difficult for him going forward. Then what does he do next? If he's out of Formula One, do you want this Schumacher name rattling around in some of the lower categories? I don't know. It's a very difficult situation. I feel sorry for him in many, many ways.
Yeah, but to the Haas team, they came out of the box pretty strong this year.
Oh, yeah.
But it seems as where the other teams have had some continuous development, the Haas's remain stagnant.
Yeah, and it's a budget thing as well, I'm sure, in many ways.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, but it seemed like they came out of the start off the year with so much promise, and then now it's back to back to sitting in the back of the classroom.
Yeah, difficult. I don't know where to. Yeah, it's there's a lot going on there, obviously, and yeah, you do. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? As I say, with a lot of these midfield teams, it's like, oh, we'll see next year. Next year. Well, at what point does next year come?
Yeah. You can only hang your hopes on next year's. It's too long till you've got you become the modern day minority, right?
Yep.
And they had Haas. Yeah, I thought I had my mic on. I was trying to talk about the Haas bit. And when it comes to Haas, like they basically, in a way, and last year was a throwaway year because they were concentrating on this car, and you mentioned it. What is going on, but with this team, all of a sudden, we'll see how the summer once the summer break ends, how Haas do. Because if they don't get it together, then it'll be a big disappointment. Consider how well they got out of the gate with both drivers now scoring points. And as far as another thing that kind of came in the grapevine is that Williams seat as well. That it's looking like it's going to be Logan Sargent, who's going to be an FP1 at COTA later this year. That's been confirmed.
Yeah, I worry about that. I worry about Sargent a little bit. I don't know if he's. Yeah.
In the
Not
sense,
sure on that one.
F1 ready or
Yeah,
or
F1 ready. I
Okay.
don't know if he's that. Again, the kid's good. Goodness me, I'm not gonna deny him that, but I just wonder if he's at that level yet.
You feel like he could use another year in Formula 2.
Yeah, but I fear that
Yep.
also that if he did have another year in Formula 2, it'd be the year that showed him up.
Yeah. So it's a tough call. It's just like Ty Gibbs.
Yeah.
Right? Do you throw him right in the cup right now, or who was the guy that who am I thinking of? They threw him in the cup and we felt like they threw him in too early.
Oh, we can name a few of them. We can
Yeah.
name, I don't know, Parker Kligerman, Jeff Burton, Ryan Truex, Casey Atwood, Jason Leffler. We can name a whole bunch of people in that list.
Harrison Burton is the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
but I feel like they've been
just quite recently. Yeah, so
no, true. They've been getting it together as something that we didn't talk about so far as that Harrison finally got its first top 5 at Indy when that whole fiasco that race was that Reddick ended up winning, and that too is also the silly mystery about Reddick and RCR and their contract for 2023, and because we know he's going to go to 2311 2024, and then it's just getting weird. And Richard, here's another thing to ponder on before we're closing to the end of this program. Where does Drugovich go? I know he's leading the F2 championship, but where does he go?
Oof. I mean, what more can you ask a guy to do, really, than what he's done? Yeah, no, for sure. It's you do to the same extent. You look at it, and you look at some of the guys that have come through Formula 2, and you look at Callum Ilott, for example. Sometimes the name just doesn't fit. The face doesn't fit, if you know what I mean. Not because of any shortcoming on their driving ability, just they don't have the financial backing or they don't have the big name. You obviously look at that sort of the graduate class of like Lando Norris and George Russell.
Yeah, because
and then some of the guys like that and Charles Leclerc and they were. Lando, for example, was this name that had been circulated for a number of years. Leclerc was obviously picking up that mantle that obviously we lost with Jules Bianchi there. And George was, very highly rated on the Mercedes stable, but some of these other guys, the Drugoviches and the Logan Sargents, and
even Nick
class
De Vries as well.
Yeah, you look at them and you just think, and it's, goodness me, it's no detrimental comment on their driving ability. It's just circumstance, I think, and that's the harsh reality of the sport is,
and it's just 20 seats, and more often than not, you only have 1 or 2 openings at most.
Yeah,
see, that's the thing. Yeah, we've only got 20 seats of Formula 1. You've got all this great talent coming up, but yet Formula 1 wants to shut out anybody new coming in, So
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, why would I get it? The pit lane allocation, even if they go to 22, but yeah, we talked about it briefly. If we open to 1, it's fine. But if we get it to the point where it used to be back in the 80s and 90s to 26 to 30 entries, that's just not feasible anymore.
Right, but I think 20 is pretty light. You know what I mean? I think 20 is pretty light. I think 24 is probably a good number. Let Audi bring their own team in and let Michael bring his team in and leave it at that. But these guys don't want anybody to take a cut of their money. They're pretty happy with
Yeah.
Pretty happy with the
Well,
10-way split. Yeah.
Ask Michael Andretti about that. He's done everything he can to get that seat, and they just turned around and said, "Yeah, no."
Exactly.
What more can he do?
Yeah, which is a shame in that regard because it could make things more interesting when it comes to silly season. And maybe we'll see some guys float around to maybe there'll be an opening for a Formula 2 champion in 2023 or beyond. I'd imagine Andretti would not have been in the 2023 grid, but probably 24, 25 at the earliest. But
Well,
it makes you wonder.
you'd have to look at the if they were going to go on the grid, it would be at the regulation change time frame.
The
Which is
Concord
what 20,
agreement?
yeah, or whenever that's going to be. So you were, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? But
I don't know
yeah.
if Michael was smart, he'd start talking with Audi.
Well, I must admit,
And maybe
you see the comments from
from Toto.
Toto was like, "Oh, I'd rather have
Rather
Audi
have an
here
Audi
than."
so could you imagine Michael coming in with Audi?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be something. And if I were Michael, that'd be one way to, it's like, well, I'm going to do it. Can't stop me now because, yeah, it has my name, but Audi's the show.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if that's what Michael wants to do, but definitely, I would exactly don't know if that's what Audi wants to do, but I would definitely, if I were Michael, I would be looking into that and pursuing that to a certain extent. And Michael has a decent relationship with the Volkswagen people because he's when he was doing rallycross, he was running Volkswagen. It was a Volkswagen factory team, so there's a bit of a relationship there. So
it cuts a long way.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how all that pans out. But it seems like Porsche and Audi are both kind of very interested in partnering with Red Bull and the folks associated with them. So which I can't say I blame them.
Yeah. And should a Red Bull Porsche thing come to be, and a Porsche wins, he'll join Fabrizio. Wait, no, what was now? No, who won in Road America in the Buick? No, the Porsche. Why am I saying?
Okay, so it was Teo Fabi.
Okay, Teo Fabi.
Porsche, and it was at Mid Ohio.
Okay, middle 89. Okay,
and it was 1989 in the Quaker State. The old Al Holbert team. Yep, that was the one Porsche IndyCar win. Yes.
Thank you. I always, for whatever reason, I confused that win with Barbaza for whatever reason and Road America. I don't know why. Now I'm thinking about it.
I don't know how you
confused.
I don't know how you confused Porsche with Buick.
Quaker State. That's probably that's one confusion. It's the Quaker State car, but it was not the 26. It was the 8 or 36, mind you, for Guerrero when he won the pole. 36. No. Oh yeah. Forget. Redact. Let's talk about Marco going to the Xfinity Series.
Let's talk about Marco Andretti, who's wrapped up the SRX Championship, will make his NASCAR debut at the Xfinity race at the Charlotte Roval. What do you think about that, Luis? How do you think he'll do?
He's going to be in the 48 car, which has had success. But they really, they started fine with Jay Buford before they let him go and start putting guys like Tyler Reddick in the car to really get that 48 team off running to be a legitimate car to be at an Xfinity level. I think it'll be an interesting race for him. I expect him to be in the top 25. I was kind of hoping to see Marco run on an oval for his debut because that's kind of where he shines most on ovals. Sure. When I say that his first IndyCar win was on a road course at Sonoma, but his ovals is kind of like where he stands out a lot more, to be honest. So it'll be interesting to see how Marco does. I'm kind of excited to see how that will pan out because at this moment, it's just kind of became inevitable that he's held his own in stock cars. But when you compete with guys that haven't competed in years, with a couple of the ones that are doing their thing today, the big challenge is how he's going to do with the top young guys that can go toe and toe on a weekly basis with different backgrounds.
I'm just kind of happy for Marco that he just kind of branching out and doing what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's out from under his father's thumb and being on his father's team where people just gave him so much crap, and he just goes, hey, let me try this and let me try that. And then, he did well in the SRX, and I believe he'll, I don't think he'll embarrass himself in Xfinity. I don't think he's going to get up there and win the thing, but I think it'd be a great learning experience. But it's good to see him kind of having, if you talk to Marco this day and age, it's like he's got a big weight that's lifted off of him. And because he's not
more happy and concentrate on what he wants to do.
Yeah, he's not bound to any contract or bound to a full series that's a year-long commitment. Just bounce around and do what he wants. And I can see him trying a few other things here and there as well, like maybe Xfinity on an oval. I can see him maybe jumping in a truck race or doing a little IMSA here and there. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's where I feel like if you put Marco in an oval in that 48 car, I say he could be a top 10 runner. But like I said, it's different going from competing like late model type stock cars to a full bot to the national touring stock cars with because remember he's had minimal experience in stock. He's had experience, but not in the sense of competing with the guys that are running it on a week-to-week basis, on an annual basis.
And I want to say those SRX cars are significantly lighter than like an Xfinity car, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and they're kind of closer to like a modified, really. Yeah, than they are to like a late model. So, but more power to Marco. Let him get out there, branch out, try some new stuff, man. I'll be watching with great interest when that race comes around.
Yeah, Robles looking like a one hot ticket. Same with Watkins Glen, because of course, Mike Rockefeller of IMSA fame and sports cars, he's going to be running the 77 Spire car at Watkins Glen, which would now put 6 nationalities competing in the Cup Series next week. But we'll talk about Watkins Glen.
About Watkins Glen next week, and then one other announcement. Now I lost it.
Say Gregson going to Cup full time.
Right, yeah. Gregson going to Cup full time in the number 42 car with Petty. What do they call it? Petty.
GMS Petty.
GMS Petty. Yep. So we'll see how he does there. So, but with that being said, we are out of time. So I want to thank you, Richard. I want to thank you, Louise. I want to thank Mark Dill and Dan Blay, our sponsors. I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. And most of all, I want to thank you folks to listen to us every week. Until next week, good night.
Hoobazoo.com